Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever looked at a vintage Tamiya buggy, maybe a sand scorcher or a frog, and noticed it's running those distinctive Subaru Brat wheels?
Yeah, that's a super common sight, isn't it? That whole Brat Attack look.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into why that specific swap. We want to give you that quick, thorough understanding of this little piece of RC history.
Mm-hmm. Our mission, basically, is to figure out why this modification is still so popular decades later.
We've got a report here covering the tech specs, the performance, the looks, the whole story.
It's pretty interesting how one set of wheels could become such an icon for a whole generation of buggies.
Totally. Okay, so let's set the stage. You've got the Tamiya Subaru Brat, kit number 58038, came out in '83.
Right, and its key feature for this story are those wheels. Tamiya called them realistic 8-spoke wheels.
Yeah, 1.75-inch B diameter, three-piece construction, and they came with those block pattern tires, kind of all-terrain looking.
Non-directional tread, about 35 millimeters wide, 82 millimeter overall diameter. Pretty distinct.
Then you got the buggies that often get these wheels. The Sand Scorcher, that's way back from '79.
SRB chassis, classic.
The Frog from '83, Grasshopper '84, Hornet around the same time.
Frogs on the ORV chassis, Grasshopper, and Hornet on that early bathtub chassis.
And crucially, all those buggies originally came with smaller 1.5-inch diameter wheels.
Also usually three-piece, but different styles and definitely different tires, ribbed fronts, paddles, or spikes on the rear, depending on the kit. Meant for dirt, sand,
So the first hurdle people might think of is the tire size difference. 1.75-inch Brat tires won't fit on 1.5-inch buggy wheels.
Right, direct tire swap. Nope, not possible.
But here's the kicker. The entire wheel and tire assembly from the Brat. It just bolts straight on.
Uh-huh. That's because those early Tamiya chassis, the SRB, the ORV, those bathtub ones, they shared compatible mounting system.
Yeah, the front axles use the same kind of bearing setup, and the rear wheels mount onto those drive hubs or adapter plates in basically the same way.
So no complex adapters needed, nothing modern. You're just taking vintage Tamiya parts from one kit and putting them on another. It just fits.
Now, there might be like tiny differences in wheel offset, maybe front versus rear on the original Brat parts, or you might need to check the axle nut thread engagement.
Minor stuff, really. Maybe a bit of rubbing with the larger front Brat tires on full lock, depending on the buggy. But fundamentally, it works.
And it's period correct, which is huge for vintage collectors.
Absolutely. Okay, so they fit, but what about performance? Is it actually an upgrade?
Well, it's nuanced, depends where you're running. Those Brat block pattern tires, probably not going to beat paddles in loose sand.
Makes sense. They're more of a general tread.
But feedback from the community suggests they might actually grip better on harder surfaces, packed dirt, maybe even some asphalt.
Interesting. So less specialized, but maybe more versatile on some tracks?
Could be. Some people even said they got slightly sharper steering response on models like the Hornet with the Brat fronts, though you are adding a bit of unsprung weight.
Right. That larger wheel and tire combo has more mass.
And think about the buggies without differentials, like the Scorcher. More grip on pavement from Brat tires could actually make it push in corners or maybe even traction roll if you're not careful.
Yeah, that extra grip fights the fixed axle effect.
Plus, those block tires might hold up better on pavement compared to, say, soft spike tires, which just get chewed up.
Durability. Okay. And didn't you mention club racing?
Yeah, the report mentions Brat wheels were apparently used in some 1980s club racing. Suggests some people saw a competitive advantage, at least in certain conditions.
So less a universal upgrade, more like a tuning option to suit the surface.
Exactly. But let's face it, a huge part of this whole thing is just the look.
Oh, for sure. It dramatically changes the appearance.
That larger diameter, the blocky tire tread. It gives the buggies this, I don't know, chunkier, more substantial look, almost like a scale truck tire.
More rugged, maybe, less like a pure racing buggy, more all-terrain. Tamiya calling them realistic probably helps cement that image, too.
Totally. And swapping wheels is like RC Modding 101, right? It's how you personalize your ride.
And that specific Brat wheel look became the look for many vintage Tamiya fans. It's instantly recognizable, very desirable.
You see the photos online, the buggies just look more planted, tougher. I think for a lot of people, that visual transformation is the #1 reason they do it.
Yeah, that aesthetic appeal is powerful, especially with the nostalgia factor baked in.
And it's not like this is a new fad. People were doing this back in the '80s.
Right, soon after the Brat came out. That parts interchangeability Tamiya had early on really enabled it.
And the knowledge just got passed down, through clubs, then forums, websites.
And crucially, Tamiya kept re-releasing these kits. The Brat, the Frog, the Hornet, the Scorcher.
which means the parts are still available. New hobbyists discover these old kits, see the classic mods online, and they can actually do them.
It keeps the trend alive and introduces it to new generations. That history plus the accessibility is key to why it's still such a thing.
So wrapping it up, the Brat Attack is iconic because, well, it's easy. The parts just fit.
The look is killer, that chunky, cool, aesthetic transformation.
It offers a genuine performance tuning option for different surfaces.
It's historically significant, a real vintage mod from back in the day.
And the community keeps it alive, the knowledge is shared, and thanks to re-releases, you can still get the parts.
It's a perfect storm of factors, really. A connection to RC's past you can still experience today.
Definitely. So it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How small design choices, like making hubs compatible across different early models,
Can unintentionally lead to these really enduring cultural trends within a hobby. Makes you wonder what other unexpected mods have become legendary in other communities, right?